Okay, I'm going to get started by just welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone this evening. This is our Sunday night meditation where each Sunday night we come together at 6:30 to be able to guide you guys in some meditation and then open up to any and all questions that you guys might have related to the teachings of the Buddha. What we're going to be doing today is breathing mindfulness meditation. You're going to hear me doing some chanting as we ease into the meditation. Then there's going to be a period of time where I'm doing some guidance to guide you during the meditation. There's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating together. Then we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. I see many of you guys have the chanting sheets, which is great. You're welcome to get these and chant along because you're actually going to get more benefit out of the meditation if you're actually chanting on your way into the meditation. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally in order to be able to remember the teachings. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, a ritual, or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. Today, sometimes people think that way about the chanting, but that's actually not the way that the Buddha used chanting. There aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those kinds of things related to the teachings of the Buddha, they're actually not the teachings of the Buddha. They're misunderstandings. So we use the chanting as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you read the English translations on the chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of this, I don't think that the Buddha actually even created these chants. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death. Because a Buddha wouldn't go around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be arrogance or ego if the mind did that. And an individual who's gotten to enlightenment wouldn't be putting themselves above people and looking down on others. And they also wouldn't put themselves below people and looking up to people either. They would just see everybody as equal. So we can say that the Buddha wouldn't have created these chants because there's all this gratitude and appreciation and respect for the Buddha. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, if you learn from a teacher how to eliminate all of that and get to the peace and joy that is the enlightened mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. So that's where I suspect that these chants actually came from, is his students either during his life or after his death. So if you like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. That's going to help ease the mind into the meditation to get more benefit out of the meditation itself. And for anybody who's online, you can actually find these chants on our website by going to buddhadailywisdom.com, click on free books, and you'll see the chanting sheets down towards the bottom. After the chanting, as I mentioned, I'm going to come in with some guidance where I'm almost instructing you and teaching you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're all meditating. Everyone here and anybody who's joining us online will just all be meditating together. Now, during that period of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear sounds, especially out here in the main hall. We've got the market right here. You're going to hear occasional sounds. You're not going to be able to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. Even when I teach over in our classroom, over in that other building that is closed in with windows, you're going to hear occasional sounds even over there. If your mind craves permanent quietness, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. But that's what the unenlightened mind does, is it craves permanence. It's going to want things to be permanent. And if it gets what it wants, it's going to get happy and excited. But if it doesn't get what it wants, it's going to get angry or frustrated or sad or some other discontent feeling like annoyment. So when you hear a sound, just understand that it is impermanent. It's temporary. It's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. You can reside understanding that the whole world around you is constantly changing. It's impermanent. So you're not going to be able to meditate in an environment where it's permanently quiet. So you can just rest and be at ease with the peacefulness and understand that when you hear the microphone or you hear dogs barking or birds chirping or something like this, you can just understand this is a natural part of the world. It's just things are constantly changing. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to come out of the meditation with some more chanting. And then that's where I'm just going to maybe give you guys a little bit of taste of the teachings of the Buddha and then open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Whether you're here at the temple or you're joining us online, you'll be able to ask questions. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions for meditation. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking. And as you're journeying to enlightenment, you would learn these different positions, because it's kind of like a tool belt. You're going to need these different positions at different times because your body can't be in the same position permanently. It's just not possible. But oftentimes students are learning in the seated position. So I'm going to give you a little bit of guidance on the seated position to be able to help you to be able to understand a little bit of guidance on how to sit in a way that's comfortable. There isn't just one way to sit. You can sit however you're comfortable. What I'm going to share with you are just suggestions that you might consider, but you can really sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you can sit with maybe some cushions under your rear. This makes your seat nice and comfortable. And then if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you like to just do that lightly, where they're not real tight. Because if your legs are real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. And then some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and allows the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If that's comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. And the same thing is true for anybody in a chair, or maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you're comfortable. Sometimes people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles. But sometimes when I teach over there, I'm sitting with my legs crossed because there's a chair there that I can sit with my legs crossed. So you can really sit however you like. And then same thing with your hands and arms. You can just put those wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, you would like this to be erect with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. And the way that you accomplish that is by having the sternum up and the shoulders back. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So by having the upper body in the middle, not only does it help you to keep your mind attentive and alert, but it'll help you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So if you'd like to chant along, I'm going to start with that, and then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Bhagavanang Apivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma สติสัตตาตาวามานุสรังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหาเกวาโอตังมหาเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเกวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเกวัตโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหาเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังโพโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here this evening. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see you guys. So this is breathing mindfulness meditation, and this is a primary form of training that the Buddha used in addition to other things to be able to move his mind to enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind is completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. And this is accomplished through training of the mind. There are certain pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and he figured out how to uproot those pollutions out of his mind. And then what he did for the rest of his life is shared those tools and techniques that he used in order to get rid of those pollutions and be able to get to that peace and joy. So the Buddha was a teacher that guided people to this enlightened mental state. And when you get to enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state. Your mind will never again experience any anger or sadness or any of those other discontent feelings. It's physically impossible for someone to experience those. By the time you get to enlightenment, because you've uprooted these pollutions and eliminated them, you'll notice that the mind's focused. You'll have concentration and clarity and deep memory because the mind's performing optimally. It's not polluted with these pollutions any longer. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are really blossoming because you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile any longer in your relationships. Oftentimes people think that that's coming from other people, but it's actually coming from your own mind. When you're being hostile or bitter or harsh with others, it's actually being produced by your own mind, and you can completely transform that. There's this better way of life that the Buddha taught where you can train your mind to be loving and kind and warm and gentle with everybody around you. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even be in a bad mood any longer. You won't be able to actually experience a bad mood. You wouldn't even be able to force yourself to experience a bad mood. So I understand that that might not be where your mind is today, but that's what the possibilities are. And this particular meditation is an important role in that. There's an entire path that the Buddha taught. It's called the Eightfold Path. This is the core central teaching of the Buddha, which includes more than just meditation. You wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. This is one of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha. People think he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this just isn't true. If you study his original teachings, you'll be able to see that he talks about gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that leads to enlightenment. And you know this to be true because everything you've ever done in life has been that way. Whether it's learning to read, write, or speak a certain language, it's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Or maybe there's some job or occupation that you have, some special skill. It's been gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that you've developed this. So you're not going to be able to just snap your fingers and get to enlightenment. It took the Buddha 6 years to get to enlightenment. He started at the age of 29, and by the time he was 35 years old, he got to enlightenment. And then he spent the rest of his life from the age of 35 to 80 sharing those independently discovered teachings with countless people. And countless people got to enlightenment during his lifetime. So these are the three criteria of what makes a Buddha, is that they get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They then dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings, and countless people will get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. And then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So this individual that we refer to as the Buddha or Gautama Buddha, or there's other ways to refer to him, he meets these three criteria, and this is how we know that he was actually a Buddha. So his teachings aren't about a bunch of beliefs, that you believe a bunch of things and then you hope something good happens when you die. That's not what he did. It's also not about rules or commandments, things that someone's maybe imposing on you and trying to guilt, shame, or fear you into doing. Instead, he already got to this enlightened mental state. He was already peaceful and joyful. And if somebody was interested in understanding how to do that, that's where his teachings come in, to be able to help you, to be able to learn how to get to that same mental state. And it comes through learning, growing, and developing. In fact, we might even say that the Buddha's teachings are like a self-help program. Even though that word didn't exist during his lifetime, it's a self-help program. It's doing this inner work and growing and developing within your own mind. It's not about going out into the world and convincing other people to do anything. It's about you training your mind. Oftentimes people think that the feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and all these others are coming from something external. So they think the way to get to peace and joy is to go out into the world and convince other people to do things a certain way. And this isn't the way to peace, because you can't convince 8 billion people to do things your way. It's just not possible. But you can train your mind to get to the point where it's completely peaceful and joyful, for you will eliminate this longing, yearning, and wanting things to be a certain way. So the very first teaching of the Buddha, which you'll understand why we do this meditation, is called the Four Noble Truths. In the Four Noble Truths, you'll be able to understand what is the problem in the mind, the cause of the problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward in 4 simple statements in a way that you can independently verify. Because remember, what I shared is that the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. So in order to get to enlightenment, you need to cultivate wisdom. And the way that you do that is through learning, examining, and investigating his teachings intellectually. You reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you practice his teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life in order to transform your mind. So the first noble truth, the Buddha explains that everyone who's unenlightened will experience discontentedness. These are called conditioned feelings, that based on some condition, you will then experience a feeling, like a pleasant feeling of happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. Then there's painful feelings, like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, like guilt and shame and fear and stress and anxiety. These are very painful to experience. Then there's feelings that are neither painful nor pleasant. This is like shyness, happiness. It's not painful, it's not pleasant. Or maybe say that you were on public transportation and somebody came and sat really close to you and your body was touching their body. You might say, it's not painful, it's not pleasant, it's neither painful nor pleasant. The mind is kind of uncomfortable or dissatisfied. So this is what the unenlightened mind experiences, and it's based on some condition. That based on some condition being met, you will experience a pleasant feeling, a painful feeling, or neither painful nor pleasant. So for example, if it's sunny outside and you get really excited about that, that's a conditioned feeling. That based on the condition that it's sunny, you will now be happy or excited. But then if you allow your mind to do that, when it rains, which it looks like it's about to do here soon, when it rains, you'll be sad or frustrated or irritated or annoyed, because that feeling of happiness that you have, if it's based on the sun is not permanent. So that means your feeling is not permanent either, right? So that's why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness, because your mind is basing its inner feelings on some condition, like the sun, for example. Or maybe it's your bank account. If your bank account balance is up here, you'll get really happy and really excited. But then when it goes down here, you'll be frustrated or irritated or annoyed, right? All that's happened here is change. That's it. That's all that's happened. But the mind in the unenlightened state craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent, but yet you live in an impermanent world where things are constantly changing. So as long as your mind is craving permanence, yeah, you'll be really happy when your bank account's up here, but then when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated or irritated. And even if you get happy when your bank account balance is up here, after a few weeks or a few months, you're not even happy with that anymore. You want more. Right? You want more, you want more, you want more, right? So the only thing that's happening here is change. But the unenlightened mind, with its lack of wisdom, thinks that the problem is something external. You might think it's your mom or dad, or your brothers or sisters, or your neighbors, or your coworkers, or your life partner, or your children that are frustrating you or annoying you. But it's the mind longing, yearning, craving, wanting, expecting things to be a certain way. So the problem that the Buddha discovered is that the unenlightened mind experiences discontentedness, conditioned feelings. The second noble truth is explaining the cause of this problem is craving, desire, attachment. The mind's longing, yearning, craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. And when the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy, it gets those pleasant feelings. But when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings. If you need help to be able to see this, look at your own life, right? Because don't believe me, what I'm saying, right? You need to be able to see it for yourself. Look at a recent time when you were angry or frustrated or irritated or annoyed or some other feeling. Maybe today or yesterday or last week. What was it that your mind was longing and yearning for? If you would have got it, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get it, you were angry or frustrated or annoyed. You can see it yourself. And if you can't see that, let me know. I will help you, because we're going to pause here in a moment. I'm going to open up to questions to see what you guys would like to ask. So you should be able to see this for yourself. Like, think about it when we were children. We wanted chocolate and ice cream. And if our parents gave us chocolate and ice cream, boy, was that a good day, right? And if we got it 2 or 3 times in one day, oh, that was the best day ever, right? But at some point we asked our mom and dad, can we have chocolate and ice cream? And they said, no, you can't have any. We were angry because we crave for that chocolate and ice cream to be permanent. We wanted it. And if we would have got it, we would have been happy. But because we didn't get it, we were angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. And we thought it was mom and dad that was causing us those feelings. That's our lack of wisdom, right? So you can actually get to a point where you understand the wisdom of what's truly going on, that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. If you bought a brand new car and you drove it off the parking lot and you went into the store and you came out and you saw a scratch on your car, if you were frustrated in that situation, that's your mind craving permanence. It's not the person who scratched your car. Of course, we walk through parking lots aspiring not to scratch the car, right? We're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But if you come out and you see that scratch and you get angry or frustrated, that's your mind craving permanence, wanting this car to be permanently beautiful, when in reality, the paint's going to fade, the tires are going to need to be changed, the upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. And as long as your mind's craving permanence, when you live in an impermanent world, you'll experience discontentedness. So the cause of these discontent feelings is the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the wanting things to be a certain way. And when those painful feelings of anger are starting to arise and you attribute it to something external, you will tend to push people away. This is called aversion. You might have pushed friends or family out of your life, or you might have pushed a situation thinking you never want to do that thing ever again. Or you might have been bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. Or you might have put your expectations on people and tried to control people and pressure them to do things your way. In fact, people might be doing this to you. Right? People might be pushing you aside, being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, and putting expectations on you and trying to control you. This is because they think the way they're going to get to happiness is to get you to do things their way, right? But your mind is doing this too in some situations. So there's a way to eliminate this. This is the third noble truth. The way you eliminate this discontent feelings is to eliminate the longing, the yearning, the craving, the desire, the wanting and expecting things to be a certain way permanently. So the third noble truth is explaining to you, if you eliminate the cause of the problem, you can eliminate the problem. Right? The problem is discontentedness. The cause of that is craving, desire, attachment. The third noble truth is if you can train your mind to not base its inner feelings on something external, you can get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. And the way to do that is in the fourth noble truth. The fourth noble truth explains how the complete solution is the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the core central teaching of the Buddha, where it's going to gradually help you to understand how to train your mind. This is the self-help program that I was mentioning. This is the path to enlightenment. And when you study this through the words of the Buddha, you'll be able to see exactly what did he teach and what he didn't teach. Because oftentimes people study things that aren't actually the original teachings of the Buddha, and you can feel very lost and you can be misled if you're not learning with his original words. So what we do here at the temple, when I teach over there in the classroom and I teach here, is help you guys to learn the original teachings of the Buddha through his actual words, so you can see what did he teach and what he didn't teach. And then I teach you guys not to believe his teachings so that you can independently verify what he taught. And as you implement these teachings into your life, you're going to see that gradually, slowly but surely, your mind's becoming more and more peaceful, more and more joyful. Because there'll be situations that you know that usually you get angry and frustrated, and you'll be in that same situation, and you won't experience that anymore. And you'll know that it's these teachings that are leading to that improved condition of your mind in your life. Your relationships are gradually improving. So if you're interested in that, there's lots of opportunities for you to learn and grow and develop. They're all available to you at no cost. We have classes on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Those are our regular classes over at our classroom. But then we have courses and retreats throughout the month that you can learn from as well. And then we have books and videos and podcasts and audiobooks. It's all available to you at no cost. You can download it for free. You can get printed versions. You can take it and go print it yourself. You can get it on Amazon. You can even get personal guidance if you'd like, where we meet one-on-one, because it's one thing learning in a class, but it's a whole nother thing to relate it to your day-to-day life and your day-to-day experiences and the things that you're having happen on a day-to-day basis. So tonight at 9 p.m. is the next time I'm going to be teaching. I'm going to be teaching over there. I'm going to be teaching chapter 11 of our book. It's titled Meditation, Developing Your Practice. This is where I'm going to teach you all the ins and outs of meditations. The Buddha taught 4 meditations. These are the only 4 that he ever taught. If you look online, you'll see hundreds and thousands of meditations. But some of those meditations are actually taking your mind in the opposite direction of enlightenment. And if you're practicing those, you're not actually going to be able to experience the same mental state that the Buddha actually taught. So by focusing on what the Buddha taught, you'll be able to move your mind closer and closer to enlightenment. So I'm going to be showing you through the original words of the Buddha, what did he actually teach for these 4 types of meditations, and helping you guys to understand the ins and outs of them. So if you'd like to learn that, it's at 9 p.m. this evening over in our classroom. You'll see the signs over there that will direct you into our classroom. And we actually have air conditioning. We have really nice, soft, comfortable seats and for the mats and stuff like that. So if you'd like to come over at 9 o'clock, you're more than welcome, because we'll start with meditation, and then I'm going to teach you the ins and outs of meditation. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have any questions, anything you would like to ask. If you're here at the temple, we have some wireless microphones around. You can just get one and press the gray button. The lights will come on, and you can hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And then if you'd like to keep the microphone with you, someone else around you might have a question. They're right here on the floor, so you guys are welcome to get those. And then anybody who's online, you can put your questions into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So does anybody have any questions, anything you'd like to ask? Alejandro, yeah.
I have a question about the meditation today because I have difficulties to focus. And also comes in other situations. For example, I don't know, for example, I'm in a room and the other person is making some noise, or for example, there is music outside. So I don't know why these kind of noises disturb me, and even I try to let it go and focus in the breathing. It comes and comes and comes. And probably it's related with something about the sixth sense, but I would like to ask you if you have any recommendation for kind of noise that repeat all the time.
Sure.
Or how you can let it go.
Sure. So when we talk about craving, desire, attachment, that's like a general way to talk about it, how the mind's longing, yearning. What's actually happening is the mind is longing, yearning through the six sense bases. What the six sense bases are the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and then the mind itself. And when it experiences contact, it wants permanently agreeable contact. So the things you see, you want it to be agreeable. And then when you see something agreeable, that's when you get your pleasant feelings. But when you see something that's disagreeable, that's where the painful feelings come in. And the same thing's happening with the ear. When you hear a certain sound that's agreeable to you, like maybe you're in your car at a stoplight and someone pulls up to you with some music that you like, you're like, hey, that's my jam. All right, let's have fun, right? And you really like that. But then when you pull up to the next traffic light and you hear a different sound, maybe someone's got some music you don't typically listen to, that's where the painful feelings come in. You're angry or frustrated. And the mind's going to attribute it to that person playing the music in the car, but it's actually what's called sensual desire. The mind is longing, yearning through the ear for permanently agreeable sounds. So when you're meditating like this, your mind has certain cravings where you see certain things as agreeable, and typically when people are meditating, they see silence as agreeable, and then any other sound, they will consider that to be disagreeable. And they might even call it noise, right? And that has kind of like a negative connotation. But if you just understand that it's just a sound, that's all it is. It's just impermanence, right? So that you can get to a point where you don't crave permanence. So the way that you actually train your mind to do this is with breathing mindfulness meditation. What this meditation is doing is training your mind to let go, let go, let go. Because that's what craving, desire, attachment is the mind's holding on and is craving things to be permanent. And you need to train your mind to let go. So when the mind's on the breath and it moves off the breath, you notice that, and that's your mindfulness. And then when you let go and you come back to the breath, that trains your mind to let go and eliminate craving, desire, attachment. And there's other tools too, like practicing generosity, where you're giving and sharing with others without any expectation of anything in return. And then the whole Eightfold Path is helping you eliminate craving, desire, attachment. But specifically, the way to target this particular craving, desire, attachment is you actually expose the mind to the thing that it sees to be disagreeable. Right? Whenever you have something pleasant that you're experiencing, you're going to want to pull that in. That's what the unenlightened mind wants to do. And anything that's disagreeable, it wants to push it away. That's the aversion. So in order to train your mind to be peaceful and joyful and content in any and all situations, these pleasant things that you get a lot of pleasure from, you're going to need to distance yourself from them for a period of time to train your mind that you can be content and peaceful and joyful without them. But then eventually, when your mind lets go of its craving, you'll be able to bring those things back in. And these things that your mind has aversion to and you're trying to push away, you're going to need to expose the mind to it. So in terms of meditation, coming here on Sunday, since this environment with all these sounds calls some annoyment, it wasn't actually the sounds that was causing it was your craving in your mind. So by exposing your mind to this type of environment, it'll actually help you. And you don't need to just do it on Sundays. You can even do it at other times during your week too. So I'll say this in another way so you can see it more clearly. Like say somebody was afraid of spiders. What they're going to do, they're going to have this fear whenever they see a spider. Because when they see a spider, that's disagreeable to them, and they want to push this away. And when they see a spider, it's disagreeable to them, so that's when the fear arises. When they see no spider, this is agreeable to them, so they're completely fine. But when they see a spider, that's when the fear arises. And what the person thinks is they're going to push away the spiders and never see any spiders. But that's not the way the world works. You're going to see spiders from time to time. So now the person hasn't actually solved the problem by pushing the spider away, right? So what you actually do in this situation is you expose the mind to this. Look at pictures on the internet or in a magazine, or go to a museum and see spiders, or go out into the woods and look at spiders. And the fear is going to come up, but you need to cut it off and let it go, cut it off and let it go, and cut it off and let it go. And each time you're doing that and you're exposing the mind to it, eventually you'll get to the point where it's like, there's a spider. I'm not hurting the spider, and the spider's not hurting me. I can be completely content when I see no spiders, and I can be completely content and joyful when I see a spider too. But if you can only be happy and joyful when you don't see any spiders, then that means your happiness is limited. And what people's minds have is it has a whole list of things. I like all these things, and I don't like any of these things. So your happiness shrinks. But when you get rid of all of this and you clear all this out, and you're like, no spiders, happy. Spiders, happy. Sun, happy. Raining, still happy. Bank account balance up here, happy. Bank account balance down here, still happy. Right? So when you get rid of all your craving, desire, attachment, where you're not longing, yearning, wanting, and expecting things to be a certain way, you can maintain your happiness all the time. Even when you have that scratch on your car, you can still maintain your joy. It's like, there's a scratch on the car. Well, did somebody leave a note? Oh, nobody left a note. And now you might go through a series of things and figure out what you're going to do here. Are you going to talk to the security and see if the CCTV camera picked up something? Are you going to talk to your insurance company? What is it that you're going to do to handle this situation? You can even get to the point where when someone dies that's close to you, like mom or dad, you don't grieve. You're not sorrowful, because it's not your love that's causing the grief and the sorrow and the sadness. It's the mind craving permanence. When mom and dad or brothers and sisters or grandma and grandpa's alive, you're getting what you want and your mind's happy. But when your mind's not getting what it wants, it's craving that permanence, wanting grandma and grandpa to be permanent. When they die, the mind is going to experience those conditioned, painful feelings because the mind's not getting what it wants. So what you would like to do is expose the mind to the things that it's averse to and is pushing away. And the example of meditation, where you're hearing certain sounds, you can expose the mind to that pretty easy. Even if someone dies close to you, if you think you would experience painful feelings, there's a way for you to expose your mind to this too, so that you can get comfortable when mom and dad or grandma or grandpa, when these people are dying, because they're going to die, it's only a matter of time. You can actually train your mind to not feel the grief and the sadness and the sorrow, where your mind can still be uplifted. And sometimes people say, yeah, but if you're happy because your mom died, no, you're not happy because mom died. You're happy despite that mom has died. Even though mom died, you can maintain your joy because you're not basing your inner feelings on whether mom is alive or whether mom is dead. So that's the same thing you need to do with meditation, is expose the mind to it so that way it can be peaceful and joyful no matter what is happening in your day-to-day life. And then make wise decisions to experience wholesome results in your day-to-day life.
So do you recommend you to take notes about the things that bother you? For example, I don't know, if it's my neighbor playing techno and my house is vibrating, or a situation like you are in a room and someone is snoring for like 5 or 6 hours. Because for me it's more like things that can become permanent for many hours, and is where it challenged me more. For a short period of time, I don't give importance. And for example, here in the temple, I don't, if a dog for some situations that are short, it doesn't affect me. But the problem is like how I do with the ones that are for a long time, and that.
Sure. Yeah. So if you expose your mind to this over multiple sessions, you'll be able to eliminate your craving, desire, attachment, because it's not going to be just one time meditating like this, but you're going to need to do it over multiple situations. So while we call it craving, desire, attachment, and we understand that that's sensual desire, the mind longing, yearning through the sense bases, there's really like a spectrum. There's real deeply held cravings, like maybe your mom or your dad, if they died, that would cause significant amount of discontentedness because the mind's holding on to them really tight. Whereas if you went to 7-Eleven and they didn't have your M&Ms, you'd probably just be a little bit annoyed, right? Like, okay. And maybe 5 seconds later, you're fine, but you're just a little bit annoyed because they don't have your M&M. So there's this spectrum of cravings, desires, attachments. And you're going to need to decide, this is your independent journey where the teacher's providing you guidance. You need to decide which of these am I going to approach first. And typically it's not going to be the mom and dad attachment. That's usually not the one you're going to handle first. You're going to handle some of the lighter ones or some of the that are in the middle. And now as your mind gets used to letting those go and you start seeing more peace and more joy coming into your mind, you see more focus, more concentration, more clarity, then you have the confidence to eliminate the ones that are more deeply held. Right? So when we talk about building concentration and focus and clarity of mind and deep memory on the path to enlightenment, it's actually not coming from the meditation itself, right? That's what sometimes people think. It's not actually coming from the meditation itself. The meditation is helping your mind to let go. And now in day-to-day life, when you let go of your cravings, your mind's not pulling in all these different directions. Because if you're walking down the street and you're like, wow, look at that beautiful woman, or wow, look at that handsome man, your mind's pulling over there. And now you smell that certain food, and now your mind's pulled over here. And now you see or hear that certain thing, and now your mind's being pulled over there. So with sensual desire, with these cravings, your mind's being pulled in all these different directions. And when you start cutting them back, that's where the focus and the concentration is going to come in, and that's going to help you to build a lot of confidence. So one of the ways to think about this when you're first on the path to enlightenment is it's almost like standing on the top of a garbage heap, and the garbage is all the cravings, desires, attachments. And as you clear out the garbage, you kind of drop down and drop down and drop down and drop down, and eventually you get to solid ground. And now your mind is nice and stable and nice and steady. So there's a whole spectrum of cravings, desires, attachments. And sure, it helps to know what those are because writing those down can be helpful for you. But you're only going to be able to tackle probably 2 or 3 or 4 at a time. Whereas if you try to tackle all of them all at once, it's going to be too much. So that's why you start with the Eightfold Path and just get the mind under some general training with the Eightfold Path. Once you've got that, pretty well under your belt and you understand that and you're practicing in that, then you can target some of these individual cravings, desires, attachments in the way that we're talking about here. You're welcome. Any other questions you guys have about meditation or the teachings of the Buddha? Maybe some personal challenges that you're having? No questions? Okay. Oh, I have a question here. Okay.
I would like to ask, I think, some personal related question. I left my family at the age of 5, so I grew up basically on my own, and I think I tend to have this feeling of being validated by people, trying to please people, to have people love me or want to be friends with me, because I sort of like grew up without knowing how it feels like to be cared of from your parent, right? And so I have that feeling, even though like what I'm doing is amazing, and then I have a lot of people care for me, but still sort of like that child experience of not feeling like people care for me, and I tend to kind of like a pursue and desire to please more people, or like search for a search for validation, to be seen, to be heard. And how do I kind of like maybe instead of like, not that like stop it, maybe accept it. I would say, how can I accept that, or maybe reduce it if possible?
Sure. Are you in contact with your family now?
Yes, right now I do. Right now we have a great relation, and we would talk about maybe twice a month.
Okay.
Yeah.
So once again, this is the mind craving, right? This is the underlying problem that the Buddha discovered. I mean, it gets deeper than that when you understand the 10 fetters, right? The 10 individual pollutions, but ultimately it comes back to craving, the mind's longing, yearning, wanting mom and dad to be permanent. And hey, all these other people grew up with their parents, why can't I do that, right? The mind's craving this permanence and not realizing that everybody grows up differently. Some people's parents die, when they're born, essentially. They never even got an opportunity to spend any time with their family. And then other children, they spend time with their parents all the way through their entire life. And then there's a whole bunch of people doing things in the middle. So you need to get to the point where you understand impermanence, that not everybody has a certain life, and it doesn't mean that one person's life is better or worse just because they spent time with their family or they didn't spend time with their family. It's just the way that your life is that you left when you were 5 years old for whatever those reasons were. And just understand that that's impermanence, that every child isn't going to grow up with their family, and that's normal. And I understand because my dad left when I was still in the womb with my mom, and I didn't see him until I was like 20 years old. I never got a chance to meet him until I was like 20 years old. So I understand what you experienced, and there's always kind of that part in the back of your mind where you want something that you didn't get, right? And that's the craving, desire, attachment. And you need to train your mind to let it go. So you're going to need to learn the entire Eightfold Path and really get that underway really well, which includes meditation. But then there's something that you can do to train your mind to let go with relationships, right? One of the biggest things that the mind experiences with relationships that it doesn't like is death. The mind doesn't like it when people close to you die, right? Because that's like the biggest amount of impermanence that you could get. So what you do in order to train your mind to get comfortable with that is along the same lines that I'm talking about with Alejandro, about exposing your mind to something that it doesn't want to do and what to experience, is you can actually sit and do what's called contemplation of death. This is what the Buddha taught, or some people call it reflection on death, where you actually sit and you envision in your mind that your parents have died, right? Of course, you don't aspire for them to die. You don't want them to die, right? But in your mind, you convince your mind over maybe like a 10 or 15-minute period that they actually have died. And you play that out in your mind, like maybe you got notice from a doctor or a police officer, or maybe another family member contacted you. And then you play that out in your mind, convincing the mind that they've actually died. And you might grieve. You might be sorrowful. You might be sad when this is actually going on within your own mind. But then afterwards, you're going to regain your composure and your life's going to go on. And you're going to continue to live your life. And then you wait for about a month or so, and then you do it again. And then you wait a month or so, you do it again. And each time you do this, you're going to see your discontentedness is going to go down. Each time you're not going to grieve as much. You're not going to be as sorrowful. And eventually you'll be able to do it where there's no sadness in the mind whatsoever. And you've just come to terms with the fact that your parents are impermanent and they're not going to be with you permanently. So this is exposing the mind to something that it doesn't want to actually be exposed to. And slowly but surely, you can train your mind to be comfortable with the fact that all these people around you are impermanent and they're not going to be permanent in your life.
I still like a little bit unclear. Because I think my point is that I want to maybe like reduce the desire of like being validated by people around. And I thought that desire might came from when I was young, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the question. Like how
see.
can I like reduce that being valid? For example, like right now I am the representative of my year in the uni, and then I am the every class president, and I lead like a 15-member of team. Like we have a project in Laos, and here somehow it feel like still doesn't enough, and like my project have impact over 100 young people already, but still feel like something that like people haven't give me that enough or validation, or I don't know, kind of like still seeking for it, which just make me very frustrated or unsatisfied with my work sometime.
Okay, so now I understand. So what I gave you there at the beginning was how to let go of wanting your parents to be permanent. If you have any longing, yearning, and missing your parents and feeling not well that you didn't have this life with your parents. So in terms of being validated and wanting other people to validate you, if you develop your mindfulness, your awareness of mind, where you're aware when your mind is doing this, now when you're in your day-to-day life and you're seeing your mind longing, yearning, and wanting this validation, that's where you train your mind to cut that off and let it go. That's why the meditation is so important. And this is why learning the Eightfold Path is so important, right? You need to be able to understand each of the individual factors, because that's where the Buddha teaches you to observe your mind. It's almost like a virus scanner on your computer that's watching over your hard drive. And when a virus comes and lands on your hard drive, the virus scanner isolates it, cleans it up, and gets it off your hard drive. So your mind has this same ability that you can have this mindfulness or awareness of mind overlooking your mind. And now when you experience your mind longing, yearning, and wanting validation, you can actually cut it off and let it go. This is a matter of applying right mindfulness, which is the 7th step of the Eightfold Path, and right effort, which is the 6th step. But you need to be able to understand what those are, and you need to be able to practice the meditation and generosity so that the mind will let go. Because just understanding intellectually that you need to let it go, okay, I probably already understood that before we even talked. But then you need to reflect on it and say, like, yeah, if I didn't have that in my mind, that would be really great to not want that validation. But then you need to practice. The practice is where the real transformation is occurring gradually, slowly, but surely. Training with meditation, training with generosity, and all the other factors of the Eightfold Path, so that in day-to-day life, where you see the mind longing, yearning, and wanting validation, you can cut it off and let it go. Where right now, you might send out an email, you might go talk to your friends, I don't know what you do, you know what those things are that you're doing, where you're out there trying to seek validation. Where you see your mind wanting to do that, you're going to need to restrain it and pull it back. Just like if you were riding a horse and you were going to pull the reins back on a horse, you need to do the same thing with your mind. But you're not going to be able to do that unless you're actually training with the meditation and generosity and implementing all these other factors of the Eightfold Path. So that's why you really need to start with that, is learning the Eightfold Path and practicing that closely. You're welcome. Anything else you guys would like to talk about? No questions? Oh, question here? Okay.
I have a question about, you were talking about death, right? Now, I believe that I'm quite a practical person, and when time comes for my parents to pass, it'll be fine. But how do you deal with a death of a very young person? And like grief for the life they could have lived?
So it's the same thing, that the mind is craving for this person to experience something. And if you've trained your mind prior to their death, when they die, your mind won't experience the grief and the sorrow and the sadness. If they've already died, is that what's happened? They've already died? Yeah, so now you're already experiencing the impermanence. And this is where if you train your mind with the breathing mindfulness meditation and the Eightfold Path, like I was talking about with this gentleman, that is what will train your mind to let go. But then you're going to need to get to the point where you have your mindfulness, that observation of the mind, that awareness of the mind, so well developed that when the thoughts of this person and, oh my goodness, I wish they were still alive, starts coming up, that's what you cut off and let go. Or, oh my goodness, I wish they could have gone to school, or I wish they could have gotten a job or gotten married and had kids, or whatever it is that your mind is longing, yearning for this person to have experienced. That's where you need to be able to see it with your mindfulness and then cut it off and let it go. Because your mind's going to just indulge in those thoughts, and now it's going to be really hard for you. And oftentimes what the mind thinks in the unenlightened state is it thinks this grief that you're experiencing is coming from love and your care and your concern. So the mind oftentimes isn't comfortable to let it go. It thinks that if I let go of this grief and this sadness, I'm letting go of my love. But that's not actually true. The love is a genuine interest in seeing this being be well, where the grief and the sadness and the sorrow, that is being caused by the craving, the desire, the wanting, the expecting, that craving for permanence. So when you let go of the craving, desire, attachment, you can get to a point where you let go of the grief and the sadness, and now you can keep your love, that you love this person, you would like to see them be well, but obviously they're not in this life any longer, so that's just the way that the nature of their life went. So you need to train your mind with the breathing mindfulness meditation in the generosity consistently over a long-term period, and then with your mindfulness, whenever you see the thoughts coming up, you cut it off and let it go, and cut it off and let it go. And you need to be able to see very clearly that that grief and that sadness isn't being caused by the love, because then your mind will be comfortable to let it go, because otherwise it won't feel comfortable to let it go. But you can get to a point where you're completely peaceful and joyful and understanding, like, okay, this person's life was this person's life. And if they lived until 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or however old they were, that's the life that they lived. Have appreciation that you got to experience life with them and they were involved in your life, and just understand that that life that they were in, it was that period of time, and don't long and yearn for something different than it was. But you're going to need to train your mind gradually to be able to cut off and let go, because as long as you allow the mind to dwell on those thoughts, you're going to keep having it, and it's going to keep producing the discontentedness. You're welcome. Okay, I think we're all done, so I don't see any questions online here. So what I'm going to do is just end by thanking all of you guys. I appreciate you coming to the temple to learn and grow and develop. If you'd like to learn more, like I mentioned, the next class is on this evening at 9 p.m. And then we have classes on Wednesday at 9 a.m. So you guys are welcome to come to any of these classes that you like. If you need help from me, feel free to let me know. You're welcome to come talk with me privately. I can help you get plugged into the resources like the books and the videos and all the different things that you might need. So whatever you choose to do today, whether it's shopping or eating or getting a massage or whatever it is, have a wonderful and lovely rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee krap, sawadee krap, sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.